Built into our creation story is the law of polarities. Night, light, day, night, up, down, hot, cold, good, evil. So it's built into the creation stories that we don't always walk the red road. And sometimes when we fall off the red road, that's when we see enslavement. That's when we see genocide. That's when we see hierarchy. That's when we see superiority complex. When we have gotten off of the red road. So we know that humans need these enlightened thinkers, enlightened teachers to come. People like Jesus. For us, it was Nana Bush who came and helped us with wampum laws and things like that, helped to teach us to live in a good way. So these enlightened teachers come along to help remind us, but Creator is trying to teach through creation itself. And I think because we do have the divine spark, if we continue to try to touch base with that divine spark within and without, we can humbly understand that there are these polarities and it's built into the fabric of creation. So, like it or not, we are not saints. We're a mixture of vices and virtues, and we have to help each other to walk towards the virtues rather than the vices.
So if everything is cyclical, then there will never be a time where the virtues overcome the vices. Is that?
Who knows? I'm hopeful that as humans evolve, we will evolve in such a way because I'm a modern person too. So I am hopeful that we are evolving towards that understanding. But at this point, yes, what we see is there was a period of growth and now we're in a period of stagnation and decay. Hopefully, what will happen is there will be a period of growth. My hope is that with each period of growth, we get closer and closer and closer to the divine. So that 200 years ago, um, there were enslaved people. We may be in a time of stagnation and decay at this point, but that's part of the cyclical pattern. But when we get back to growth, I'm hoping that we're even closer so that it's going more like this. So that would be my hope that even though these patterns continue, that eventually, sort of like a spiral, we get closer and closer and closer to the divine. I mean, 200 years ago, who talked about water having rights? Or that women were actual beings who had brains and bodies and choice and responsibilities. Indigenous people did, but some other cultures didn't. But now, some of those same cultures, now they can look at women and see women as real beings who have rights and responsibilities, gifts and talents. That wasn't always there. Environmentalists, some cultures use the environment like a trash can. They misused, they abused, even the medicine plants were abused and are still being abused. But there are people I hear on TV right now who talk about clean water, clean air, the rights of rivers, that we need to respect nature, that we need to treasure it. So I can see our movement towards creator and understanding and respecting creators' grandeur in this incredible cosmos. So I'm hopeful that we are spiraling closer and closer and closer and closer to the divine.
I'm wondering how you can maintain that hope when what I'm seeing is a world that seems to be spiraling out of control. I mean, we're at war everywhere, and the things that are happening right in our own country are just unthinkable that we would be going backwards when we should be advancing forward. But again, I suppose in the indigenous way of thinking, it's cyclical. And so we'll get back around. I think I'm getting it.
Yeah, it's very cyclical, and you're right. But I can't think of a time, like I said, I've been on this planet for decades and decades now. I can't think of a time when we haven't been at war. But there have been places and times that I have seen peacefulness where people really were treating each other with respect. We came out of a period of multiculturalism where people were seeing each other for the first time, where they were allowing each other to grow. And it was a beautiful thing to witness. That whole time that women were given rights, that two-spirit people were being incorporated back into the community. We had that period of growth. So I'm hoping once we come out of this period of devolution and decay, just like we did, we've come out of winter, we're now back into spring. And when I look out there, I see greening, the greening, like Hildegard of Bingen used to say, the greening of creation. So my hope is that after this period of death and decay and destruction, that from that will come again spring, and it'll be even more glorious than it was. Who would have thought we would ever had anything after World War II, after they murdered all those millions and millions and millions of people, where this one man decided he was superior to all and tried to trample the world. And somehow we came out of that darkness and were able to come back into light. And that light helped move some communities forward. But
Well, I have to just kind of just say that, you keep mentioning Hildegard of Bingen, and she was a nun, I believe, of German extraction in I want to say either the 13th or I think it must have been 1300s. And I've read some of her prophecies because she was a gifted woman. And one of the things that amazed me about, I can't remember the name of this book that she wrote, but it's just a collection of her
yeah, good
prophetic
writing.
visions. And one of the things that she talks about is the nations that are across the sea. Now, at this point, there's no travel going on, at least from Europe, into the New World. So, how does she see these nations across the sea? Now, that gives me chills for one thing,
Yeah.
but the extent of those nations that this land. This part of the world was densely populated. And I mean, you are such a positive person, and I can see how, the hope is restored in looking at that wheel and thinking about the spiraling. But when you really reflect on, and I'm not trying to depress you, but when you think about the things that have happened to Indigenous people in this country,
It's
how
horrible. It's horrible. And and Native people, we have the worst statistics: suicide, alcoholism, depression, um, all sorts of abuses of children. What happened across the world when one of the reasons I left the Catholic Church is because I learned about the doctrine of discovery, and
okay.
it sickened me. I felt like as a convert, they should have told me that first, that they had been responsible for the enslavement of my African ancestors and the destruction and genocide of my Native American ancestry. They should have said that first and then given me a chance to decide whether I wanted to join such a religion. But I never heard about any of that until decades later. When I really allowed that to sink into my being, I could not stay within an organization that had promoted that and refuses, even though Native Americans have insisted, have refused to rescind it. It's still on the books. And what it did was it taught everyone that we were nothing, that our resources and everything we had, our very lives were worth nothing, and that they could take everything. That misuse of religion definitely led me back to the circle because there's no hierarchy here. Everything and everyone is respected. We are all equal. We are all sacred. And you have no right to go and decide that you are superior to anyone or anything. So I absolutely wanted to stay in contact with Keisha Lamukong, Creator God, but I needed to do it in a different way. And so, yes, it has been, humans have been horrible, horrible. And at the same time, we're amazing sometimes in our kindness and our compassion. And I think that's why this Thanksgiving address has been so helpful to me because it makes me focus on the positives that humans do.